Zayyan Al Reehan was a powerful businessman with everything to lose. Leena Vorskaya was a young immigrant worker with nothing to hide except a deadly secret. When their secret affair spiraled into obsession, disease, and blackmail, only one of them would survive. And the truth behind it all would shake Dubai's elite to its core. Zayyan Al Reehan lived in the heart of Dubai's luxury district. By all appearances, he was a successful man, respected in business, admired in social circles, and devoted to his family. His wife, Yasmin, was often seen with him at high-end events, and their 2 children attended elite international schools. To outsiders, Zayyan had achieved the perfect life. But behind the marble walls of his waterfront villa, Zayyan nursed a hidden craving for risk and secrecy. For years, he had maintained control, keeping his temptations under wraps. Until Leena Vorskaya entered his world. Leena was 23, an immigrant from Moscow working late-night shifts at an upscale bar in a downtown Dubai hotel. She had fled a troubled past and came to the UAE with the hope of rebuilding her life. Leena was striking tall, with icy blue eyes and a demeanor that gave little away. She had learned quickly how to survive in the city, stay quiet, keep her past locked away, and never form emotional attachments. But when Zayyan began visiting the bar regularly, something shifted. He was older, polished, and rich. And unlike the men who usually made advances toward her, Zayyan didn't make demands, at least not at first. He paid generously, tipped discreetly, and seemed genuinely intrigued by her. Their relationship started with subtle gestures, lingering glances, small talk, and compliments wrapped in casual conversation. Eventually, he invited her for coffee. Then came gifts, private dinners, and secret meetings in rented apartments. What began as a calculated flirtation turned into a full-blown affair. Zayyan was addicted to the secrecy and danger. He told himself it was temporary, a thrill, a distraction. He compartmentalized the affair from his family life with disturbing ease. But he underestimated Leena. Leena saw Zayyan differently. To her, he wasn't just a fling, he was a means of escape. She saw stability in him, even a twisted form of protection, but she also sensed control. Over time, she started testing limits, asking for more time, more attention, more money. Zayyan noticed, but instead of backing away, he gave in. He felt guilt, perhaps, or maybe fear. What he didn't know was that Leena was hiding something far more serious than her emotional attachment. Before coming to Dubai, Leena had been diagnosed HIV positive. In Russia, she had contracted it through a former boyfriend, a detail she buried deep within her new identity. In a new country with new rules, she avoided medical treatment and lied to anyone who asked. She never disclosed her status to Zayyan. As the relationship became more intimate, the consequences of her silence became more dangerous. Months passed. Zayyan began feeling ill. At first, he thought it was exhaustion. He was overworked, stressed, and sleeping irregularly. But when the symptoms grew persistent, night sweats, ulcers, weight loss, he went to a private clinic. The test came back positive, HIV. Shock turned to rage. He felt betrayed, ruined, poisoned. His entire life flashed before him, the potential scandal, the risk to his family, the shame. He kept the diagnosis a secret and began withdrawing from Leena immediately. He blocked her number, ignored her messages, and avoided the bar entirely. But Leena didn't disappear. She grew more determined. She left notes on his car. She found his work address and tried to meet him during business hours. She hinted at going public if he continued ignoring her. Zayyan panicked. The woman he had, once seen as a fantasy, had now become a threat. He didn't know what she might do next. And in that rising panic, he began to think not just about how to escape the situation, but how to erase it completely. Leena Vorskaya's obsession with Zayyan Al Reehan grew darker with every passing week. When he started ghosting her, she didn't react like someone heartbroken. she reacted like someone betrayed. She had invested more than just emotions into the affair. She believed she had earned a place in Zayyan's life, and the sudden silence ignited a storm inside her. She began to appear where she wasn't welcome, outside his office, near his home, even at the gym he frequented. She never confronted him directly, but her presence was enough to rattle him. Zayyan, already reeling from his diagnosis, now found himself trapped in a web of fear and paranoia. He knew Leena had nothing to lose. She didn't care about reputation or status, but he did. His entire life depended on keeping this secret buried. If she talked, if she exposed him, he would lose everything. The thought of his wife finding out was unbearable. But the thought of the media learning about his affair with a much younger woman, followed by an HIV scandal, was worse. Leena didn't stop at stalking. She began sending anonymous packages to Zayyan's office, letters written in red ink, USBs, containing old videos of them together, and even copies of a fake pregnancy test. It wasn't clear what her true intention was, revenge, reconciliation, or chaos, but it was working. Zayyan began to unravel. His business partner, Remy Dastour, noticed the change. Remy had been close to Zayyan for over a decade. He could sense something was wrong. Zayyan's late arrivals, missed meetings, short temper, and visible weight loss weren't normal. At first, Remy suspected burnout or an extramarital affair, but when he pressed Zayyan, the truth began to slip out in fragments. Zayyan admitted to the affair but avoided the details. He downplayed it, pretending it was already over. What he didn't say was that Leena had told him about her HIV status too late, and that his own test had come back positive. That truth was too heavy to share, but Leena wasn't finished. When her attempts to meet Zayyan failed, she changed tactics. She created fake social media accounts pretending to be other women from Zayyan's life. One profile reached out to his teenage daughter with a message suggesting her father wasn't who he seemed. Another sent friend requests to Zayyan's wife. These digital intrusions were silent but sharp, like knives aimed at his carefully crafted life. Zayyan went to the police to file a harassment complaint, but without concrete evidence or identity, there wasn't much they could do. He couldn't tell the full story. Doing so would expose everything. Instead, he hired private security and installed surveillance systems around his house, but the fear lingered. He stopped sleeping properly. He began carrying a concealed weapon in his car. At this point, his thoughts were no longer rational. He wasn't just trying to survive a scandal, he was starting to fantasize about erasing the source of it altogether. Meanwhile, Leena continued to write in a small black diary she kept hidden in her apartment. She chronicled every interaction, every threat she received, every moment of intimacy, and every fear that Zayyan might do something drastic. But she didn't go to the authorities. Maybe she thought she still had control. Maybe she thought she could manipulate the situation. Or maybe she was waiting for the perfect time to detonate her bombshell of evidence. Then, one evening, Zayyan received a handwritten letter at his office. It had no return address. Inside was a single line written in Leena's handwriting. "If I disappear, remember, it was you." That letter changed everything. For Zayyan, it was a final warning. For Leena, it was a line drawn in blood. From that moment, their twisted connection took a deadly turn, one that would soon unravel in public view with tragic consequences. It was a warm Thursday evening in Dubai when surveillance cameras captured Zayyan Al Reehan entering a luxury serviced apartment near Jumeirah Beach. With him was Leena Vorskaya. The building staff recognized Zayyan. He had used the same apartment multiple times under a corporate booking. He often stayed there alone, or so they thought. What they didn't know was that this visit would be different. It would be Leena's last dot the next morning. The cleaning crew found the apartment locked from the outside, as usual, with nothing unusual visible. Zayyan had checked out early, requesting a car service and tipping the front desk in cash. 2 days later, a construction worker discovered a black trash bag dumped at the edge of a barren lot near an unfinished high-rise. Inside was Leena's lifeless body wrapped tightly, her wrists bruised, her neck marked with deep red lines. A single stab wound was hidden beneath her left rib. The crime scene was clean, almost too clean. No wallet, no phone, no ID, just a scarf soaked in blood and a faint trace of perfume. Forensics would later identify strands of hair under her fingernails, along with skin particles that hinted at a struggle. But for now, the victim was classified as a Jane Doe. Detective Khalid Marei took the lead. With over 15 years in homicide, he had seen many crimes dressed in disguise, but this one felt personal. The way the body was wrapped, the precision of the injury, the location all pointed to someone who had both access and reason. Within hours, they identified the body through a tattoo on the wrist and a match from the local immigration database. Leena Vorskaya, age 23, Russian national, on a hospitality visa. Detective Marei's team began tracing Leena's last movements. They examined footage from her apartment, from the hotel bar where she worked, and from nearby ATMs. The final footage that stood out was from the serviced apartment entrance. She entered with Zayyan, but there was no footage of her leaving. Zayyan was summoned for questioning. Calm and composed, he admitted to knowing Leena, calling their relationship complicated, and claiming he hadn't seen her in weeks. He said any suggestion otherwise was a misunderstanding or possibly manipulation on her part. But when presented with footage showing them entering the same building just 2 nights before Leena's body was found, his story began to fray. He claimed they had an argument, that she left angrily, that he had no idea what happened after. But there was no footage of her exit. No trace of her calling a cab. No sign of her reappearing on street cameras. The building's rear exit cameras were mysteriously disabled that night. A security audit revealed the power supply had been tampered with. Clearly intentional. Then came the break in the case. A small plastic locker key found in the lining of Leena's handbag, which had been recovered from a bin behind the building. It belonged to a storage facility in Alquoz. Inside the locker, officers discovered Leena's diary, a USB stick, a duplicate set of apartment keys, and a burner phone. The diary painted a disturbing picture, one that contradicted Zayyan's claims of distance. Entries showed she met him regularly, had been threatened by him, and feared for her life. One passage read, "If anything happens to me, it's not suicide. He's too powerful to be afraid of consequences." The USB held audio recordings, some muffled, some crystal clear. One of them captured a tense conversation between Leena and a man whose voice matched Zayyan's. While not a direct confession, it revealed emotional volatility, desperation, and threats. Detective Marei knew this wasn't a random killing. This was intimate, methodical, and done by someone who wanted every trace buried. The evidence was mounting, and Zayyan's mask of innocence was beginning to slip. But there were still unanswered questions. Why now? Why not just walk away? And was someone else helping him clean up the mess? As the investigation deepened, so did the cracks in Zayyan's story. His digital footprint showed deleted messages, multiple private browser sessions, and encrypted communication with an unknown number. That number would soon lead police to an even darker discovery and prove that Zayyan might not have acted alone. Detective Khalid Marei sat in silence as he flipped through the pages of Leena Vorskaya's diary. Each entry unraveled a little more of the truth Zayyan Al Reehan had tried so hard to bury. Her handwriting was precise, almost too clean for someone living under so much pressure. But the content was chaotic, painful, and deeply revealing. She had documented every detail of their affair, when it began, how it evolved, and how it eventually became a threat to her safety. She had anticipated the danger. She had feared it would come. What she didn't know was how close it had always been. The diary entries gave Khalid the leverage he needed to secure a warrant to search Zayyan's properties. The most significant breakthrough came during the sweep of his private yacht, a sleek vessel docked in a restricted marina reserved for Dubai's elite. Tucked beneath one of the floor panels in the master cabin, police discovered a black duffel bag. Inside were disposable gloves, industrial-strength cleaning chemicals, a rope that matched the markings on Leena's neck, and a burner phone. It was the phone that broke the case open. Investigators recovered fragments of deleted texts and call logs, all linking back to the night of Leena's death. GPS data placed Zayyan's yacht within 2 kilometers of the construction site, just hours before Leena's body was discovered. The phone had been turned off shortly after that trip, never to be used again, until now. In evidence, forensics confirmed what Khalid suspected. Zayyan's DNA was on the gloves, and faint traces of Leena's blood were found inside the bag. In addition, a forensic sweep of the service department revealed clean surfaces with chemical residue matching those found in the yacht's bag. Zayyan had gone to great lengths to cover his tracks, but he had underestimated how small a trace he could leave behind. The pressure mounted. Media outlets caught wind of the scandal. Headlines screamed, "Dubai business mogul linked to murder, and affair, HIV, and a body inside the double life of Zayyan Al Reehan." Public sympathy turned sharply in Leena's favor. The image of a vulnerable immigrant woman trapped in a deadly affair with a powerful man stirred outrage. Still, the case wasn't airtight. Zayyan had money, resources, and a team of high-end lawyers who claimed that the evidence was circumstantial. They argued that Leena had been unstable, that she could have staged her own demise to frame him, or that someone else, perhaps a stalker, had followed her. But these theories began to crack when another voice entered the narrative. Leena Vorskaya, Leena's younger sister. Anya had remained quiet, hidden in the background of the case. But now she came forward with a video message stored in a cloud account only she could access. The video showed Leena sitting on her bed, looking visibly anxious, holding her phone up as she spoke. She mentioned Zayyan by name, saying she feared he would hurt her if she ever tried to expose the affair. Her voice trembled. She described a moment when Zayyan threatened her during an argument, warning her that no one would believe a girl like you over a man like me. The court admitted the video into evidence. It was the emotional blow the prosecution needed. Public opinion shifted irreversibly. The narrative of a powerful man using his influence to silence a woman who knew too much now felt undeniable. In court, Zayyan appeared calm but hollow. His silence said more than his statements ever could. His wife, Yasmin, never appeared during the trial. Rumors circulated that she had left the country with their children, quietly filing for divorce. His business empire began to crumble. Partnerships were terminated. Properties were frozen. Sponsors withdrew. But even as the trial neared its conclusion, one question lingered in Detective Marei's mind: had Zayyan truly acted alone? The burner phone had exchanged multiple messages with another number, one that remained untraceable. Someone else had helped him, someone who vanished before the arrest. Whether it was a friend, an employee, or someone in the shadows, one thing was clear: the full truth had yet to surface. The courtroom fell into an eerie stillness as the judge read out the verdict: guilty of murder in the first degree. Zayyan Al Reehan, once a revered figure in Dubai's business elite, now stood shackled and disgraced. The sentence: life imprisonment, without the possibility of parole. Cameras outside the courthouse captured the moment, broadcasting his fall from power to the entire world. A man once known for his charm and polished image was now a symbol of betrayal, secrecy, and fatal arrogance. Inside his prison cell, Zayyan rarely spoke. He refused interviews, declined visits, and remained isolated even among other inmates. The transformation from influential tycoon to a silent, fading inmate was complete. His businesses collapsed under public pressure. Properties were liquidated. Investors pulled out, and international partners severed all ties. His children left Dubai, their mother choosing exile over humiliation. Yasmin, once the silent partner in his image of success, quietly divorced him and disappeared from public life. But while the sentence brought a sense of justice to some, it did not close the case for Detective Khalid Marei. He remained uneasy. The investigation had uncovered evidence suggesting someone else had been involved, someone who helped Zayyan clean up the crime or cover his trail. The untraceable number on the burner phone, the missing surveillance footage, the disabling of built-in cameras, none of that could have been done alone. Zayyan may have been the mastermind, but someone else had assisted him in the execution. In the weeks following the conviction, Detective Marei began retracing old leads. His attention turned to Remy Dastour, Zayyan's longtime business partner. Remy had left Dubai quietly just after Zayyan's arrest. He claimed it was due to stress and personal matters, but the timing was suspicious. Phone records showed limited but consistent contact between Remy and Zayyan in the weeks leading up to Leena's death. They had met privately on more than one occasion, and Remy had access to many of Zayyan's properties, including the service department. A search warrant was issued, but by then, Remy was long gone. His last known location was in Eastern Europe, and he hadn't used his UA identification or credit card since. It was almost as if he had disappeared entirely. Despite this, authorities found small traces connecting Remy to the crime. A glove print partial match from the apartment matched his DNA profile from an old business license file. While not enough for prosecution, it was enough to confirm what Khalid had feared. Zayyan hadn't acted alone. Still, Zayyan never spoke about Remy. He never mentioned help, never confessed to planning anything with anyone else. Whether out of loyalty, fear, or calculation, he took the fall alone. But Detective Marei knew this case wasn't just about one murder. It was about a network of power, secrets, and silence. The public, however, had moved on. News cycles shifted, and newer scandals replaced old ones. Yet for those closest to Leena Vorskaya, the loss remained sharp. Anya Vorskaya returned to Russia, choosing to keep her sister's memory alive by speaking at forums about abuse, exploitation, and how vulnerable workers often fall through the cracks in powerful cities like Dubai. In prison, Zayyan grew older. In silence, his health began to deteriorate, complications from the virus he had tried so hard to hide. Doctors inside the prison infirmary noted his steady decline, but Zayyan refused treatment beyond the minimum required. Perhaps it was guilt, perhaps resignation. He never appealed the sentence, never wrote a public statement, never tried to tell his side of the story. And so the case faded into Dubai's hidden history, a cautionary tale buried beneath skyscrapers and silence. But in the cold archives of the Homicide Division, Detective Khalid kept a file labeled Vorskaya Case, Unresolved Threads. Inside it were photos, reports, and one final note: justice served, but not complete. Someone else is still out there.